Now, the D Tycoon Show. Bill Morton, president of the Rogers Park Chamber of Commerce, cannot be with us today. He is nursing an injury. I am Trudy Leong, administrator of the Rogers Park Chamber of Commerce. Our very special guest today is John R. Dallas Jr. He is the Chief Enlightenment Officer at the Enclave Academy. Welcome, John.
It is so good to be here, Trudy. Thank you.
Thank you. So we met at an event, at a Cook County event, and you told me about metacognition.
Yes.
And what is metacognition?
What a great answer. Opening. It's great. The word meta. Let me just talk for a second about the prefix. Meta, beyond being Facebook's corporate name, meta as a prefix means beyond. And so metacognition means taking your cognition, taking your thinking beyond itself, so that you go beyond your default thinking, you go into a higher level of thinking. So whatever the decision that you're about to make, whether it's buying a car, hiring somebody, letting somebody go, whatever it might be, you just pause for a second and you use metacognition, which is called thinking about your thinking, and therefore your decision making will be better.
And what is it about metacognition that makes your decision making better?
Well, we have a tendency, we busy people, of defaulting to what's called lower order thinking, and lower order thinking is not what we need for decision making. So we need to do what's called higher order thinking, or in Dr. Daniel Kahneman's world of thinking, it's called System 2 thinking. So if you're about to spend a lot of money, about to hire somebody, about to go on a television program, you do some higher order thinking to make sure you're using the right mindset, the right type of thinking, and you're aware of your cognitive biases. So it's the risky cognitive biases that metacognition allows you to identify.
Well, oftentimes people who are skillful at something, sometimes they just work on reflex, and then
Yes.
so how is metacognition addressing reflex? Does it build on it, or does it take it apart?
It takes it apart. It takes it apart because our emotions have such a great impact on how we think, and in some cases what we think about. What we specialize at Enclave Academy on is the ways of thinking. So we have 36 modules. They're called micro-learning modules to teach you 36 different ways of thinking about your thinking. And so when you do some of the default kind of thinking that you're talking about, we tell you time out. It's time to think and do some more sophisticated thinking. And by the way, this thinking can happen really quickly. It doesn't have to take for hours. And so as we talked about a few weeks ago at the UIC forum with the Cook County event, that you have an opportunity to really just pause for a second and think about your thinking to make it better.
Let's take a real-life example and see if we could build on it. For instance, Bill Morton, the president of the Rogers Park Chamber of Commerce, is recuperating from an injury. Is there any way that he could use metacognition, and that I could use metacognition to help him heal better?
Oh, yes. Yes, you couldn't have asked a better question. So neuroscience has proved that the more we think about our thinking, the more contributory our thinking is to our healing process. So people who acquiesce when they're lying in bed while ill and not using their curiosity, not using their thinking process, are not necessarily stimulating the brain to do something that's just loosely called, without clinical terminology, workaround thinking. I need to work around this pain. I need to work around this issue. And so if you keep your brain very active in a hospital bed or in recuperating at home, by watching YouTube videos or by reading or having good, solid conversation with people who are thinking about thinking themselves, the brain and the body heal faster. And I'm a walking and living proof of that. I suffered a major stroke in 2003, and I lost everything. I lost my vision, I lost my ability to speak, and the entire time I was in the coma, my brain hadn't shut down. So I was very aware of the workaround mentality of metacognition.
So workaround is finding another way to resolve a problem.
Yeah, very much so, and to think it through thoroughly. When I think of Rogers Park, particularly in the history of watching Rogers Park from afar, and knowing several people from it, Rogers Park has developed a type of metacognition that we might call Rogers Park thinking, and so Rogers Park thinking is very resilient. So no matter what problem it might have with businesses or with tenants' rights or with any of the difficulties that a community of the size of Rogers Park must confront, it has an opportunity to think in very resilient, very innovative, very creative and strategic and tactical ways. And that combined in terms of metacognition, that creates what we'll call, for the sake of our discussion, Rogers Park thinking. Now you have your own thinking.
What about when people formulate a plan B? Does that have anything to do with metacognition?
It does. It does. So the thoroughness of metacognition, the thoroughness of thinking at a higher level is to realize that you may not get to where you need to get. If you don't, where will you be? And where will you be? Will it be enough? In other words, that's your plan B. So your plan A is what you're aiming for with your thinking. I want to solve this problem. I want a long-term solution. But all of a sudden, plan B becomes a short-term solution, that this is what we have to default to. And that's very much thinking about your thinking. We don't do it naturally, and I'm not sure if I made that clear. It's not a natural phenomenon. It's something that we have to pause for a second and say, I need to think about my thinking, or it won't happen. It rarely will happen.
Why isn't it a natural phenomenon? Is the human brain actually thwarting this thinking?
I think you and I had a conversation about that. There's something that although it's not clinically proved yet, but it's seen in clinical settings, it's called phenomophobia. It's fear of thinking. And so fear of thinking keeps us from thinking. And the fear of thinking is primarily based on the fact that if we think too deeply, if we use metacognition too effectively, that we might discover something about ourselves we don't want to know. We may not want to know that we're not as smart as we thought we were. We're not as resilient. We're not as courageous as we thought we were. So it causes, on an unconscious level, it causes the brain not to think necessarily too deeply about things. So the very things that require deeper thinking, because of that fear of thinking, we may not do the thinking that we need to do.
Well, often the ancients say that where's the demon that you have to overcome is yourself.
Yes,
so that
yeah,
is
that's
a
exactly
part of
right.
it.
Yeah, overcome your thinking is a better way to put that. You have to overcome your thinking or your lack thereof.
And then
I like that. Yeah, thank you.
Oh, thank you. So what about how could we, sometimes, we are very frustrated and then we start complaining. How could we overcome that complaining so that we could better use our metacognition?
Oh, wonderful question. So this is a mindset question. Let me just quickly say that what we focus on at Enclave Academy is your mindset, your thinking methodology, your thinking type, and the risky cognitive biases. So start with a mindset. It's the mindset within which you use your thinking. So an abundance mindset versus a scarcity mindset allows the mind to really think innovatively, creatively. It allows the mind to realize that I have an abundance of background, an abundance of experience in the Rogers Park community, an abundance of diversity. And so can I call on that? Can I bring in other voices? Can I bring other people to help think these things through thoroughly? And so that's how we work through the need to think at a deeper level to solve problems.
Well, it kind of sounds to me like the looking at the glass half full or half empty.
It's half full.
Yes, and then
It's actually full. So it's full with water and it's full with air. So that makes it a full glass.
right, exactly.
So it has two components.
So some people downplay positivity. According to you, positivity is very important.
I do not. No, I didn't mean to say that. Positivity is not important. So no, it's constructivity. So positivity has a habit in the brain of making us feel very Hallmark card-like, like we're simplifying something complex. But constructive thinking is what happens when you're in an abundance mindset. You can construct as if you're using Lego parts all these abundant resources that you have in a community as rich in terms of diversity and experience and history as Rogers Park. And any of our Chicago communities, all 77 of the designated communities. But the notion of saying, like, how can I piece this together? And positive thinking, you can pick up the positivity in constructive thinking, but it's the constructive thinking that we endorse.
That's the core.
That's the core.
What about leaders? Do leaders have use metacognition or not really?
They sure do. They must. If they're part of our program, our program in its iterations is over 20 years old. And as you and I were talking about before going on the air, the opportunity for a thinker-doer leader to call themselves that I am number one, a thinker, and number two, a doer. And therefore, if I think before I do, it's something we teach our kids. Think before you reach your hand in that cookie jar. Think before you touch that hot stove. Think before, think before, think before. And that thinking before is metacognition. You're being aware of how you're thinking before you take a risk or buy something or marry somebody or divorce somebody, whatever it is. And that kind of thinking is very preemptive.
So how could we differentiate between risk, constructive thinking,
yes,
and not thinking enough to take a risk? How could we walk the fine line so that risk we take is within the time frame that risk needs to be taken?
Well, there are some decisions you have to make when you don't have time to use metacognition, and you hope to goodness that over your lifetime to that moment that you've learned how to think at your best. We call it best effort thinking, or BET. So we ask you to bet on your bet in that moment. So bet on your bet that you're going to know to turn the wheel of your car and swerve out of the oncoming truck that's in the wrong lane or something of that nature. So you don't have time for metacognition. So it's instinctive, less than metacognitive thought.
Yes.
It's kind of cool, and I do want to say this is enjoyable. So when you and I first talked about this in that very busy room,
exactly.
You could see the energy in Trudy's face. She actually got it, and she was like, so there's a name for that. There's a concept for that, a construct for it, and ultimately it's extremely constructive thinking to say to yourself, I have the ability to think about my thinking. And more importantly, I have the ability to learn more ways to think, plural, ways to think. I learn critical thinking, strategic thinking, innovative thinking. And all of this builds up to a resilience that plays out beautifully in your household or in your workplace or in your community, your place of worship, whatever it is. Wherever you go, if you are thinking about your thinking, you are going to do whatever it is that has to be done better.
Mm-hmm. Let's take a little example. Let's say there's a project that needs to get done,
yes,
and that the person that's helping with the project is not doing it fast enough or well enough. Then how could we use metacognition to help that project along and relate to that person better?
I've been in that situation many times. I have a history as a CEO of some pretty good companies in New York and Washington, D.C. and here in Chicago. And many, many times I'd walk into a senior level officer of my company and have to correct the course of a slow project. And I would do it then and now by checking on ways they are thinking about the project. Like, is there another way to think about this that could expedite it? Is there another way of thinking about it that could make it more productive or more profitable for the company? And this notion of coming into somebody else's office or place of business or into a household and saying, are there other ways for us to think things through thoroughly together? That's what we call our 5T model, which means think things through thoroughly together to come up with what? A solution, an idea, an innovation of some kind. But it's so much safer to ask people ways that they are thinking, not what. When you ask somebody what they're thinking, they feel like they have to come up with a huge announcement.
Yes, you have to come up with a good answer,
I
and then they're very
know, and they don't always have it.
Yes.
I brought with me, and I'll just show it quickly. There's something called the Critical Thinking Cheat Sheet that is free. You can go online. Everybody is downloading it. It's the National Geographic magazine and everybody else. It's a freebie, but critical thinking is the foundation for most of what we do. And so in elementary schools, in middle schools, and high schools, even through graduate schools, they are making sure that people understand critical thinking's basics. And so I really encourage everybody who's watching this to bone up again on critical thinking's steps.
Well, we in school, teachers have taught me that you need to use critical thinking, and that usually just means analyzing a reading, a lesson. But your critical thinking, your metacognition is different from that kind of critical thinking. How so is it different?
Well, it's very aware of the steps. Almost every methodology of thinking that we know as humans is being replicated to the best of the ability by artificial intelligence. So as artificial intelligence grows and develops its ways of approximating thinking, artificially replicating thinking, we as human beings really need to work on our thinking, or we are not going to be able to co-think with artificial intelligence as effectively as we can. So these are what are called codified ways of thinking. They have steps. Like in the critical thinking, you may be told to use critical thinking, but here's where the education system admits to failing. They forget to tell you what critical thinking is in detail.
Right.
And so you say, use critical thinking. You say, okay, I'll do that. Yeah. But do you actually know how? And most people will say in private or publicly, they'll say, no, I was never taught. Journalists, when I went to Duquesne University way back when, and journalism and psychology and mass communications were my intended majors. And the very first things we learned were the steps of critical thinking as they applied to journalism. And
what journalism school was that?
That was Duquesne University in Pittsburgh.
Okay.
Yeah. Pittsburgh is a little Chicago. It's just a great city. But this is a wonderful conversation. But I do want to quickly say, if I may, that
Sure.
that Rogers Park offers an opportunity for something that we call DEI, diversified, equitable, and inclusive thinking. And it's the DEI that nobody can take away from us. It's no administration in any city or state or government can take away the diversified, equitable, and inclusive thinking that is very much a part of metacognition. So the more diversified the people around the table who are thinking together, the better the outcome is going to be. So it's an exciting thing to take DEI, which is being yanked out of our culture, and repurpose it to being a metacognitive methodology so that you're thinking in a more diversified, more equitable, and more inclusive fashion.
Is it that different cultures have different perspectives of a problem that affect their contribution.
Very much so. Very much so. And I also want to say that the use of artificial intelligence, AI chatbots like ChatGPT or Grok from X, Perplexity, which is the one that I use the most. These are really helpful to small business owners, to organization leaders, because they open new markets, they open new ideas. So learning artificial intelligence tools, do it now, because what happens is it actually stimulates your thinking. While you're interacting with artificial intelligence, you are actually developing ways of thinking about your thinking. It's great fun.
Well, when we pose a question to artificial intelligence, sometimes it hallucinates an answer, and then that's where our thinking comes in, because we are judging, is that a reasonable answer or is that a false answer? It makes up answers sometimes.
So what are you doing? So when you do that, what's that called? Now that you know. So
hallucinate. Well, that's their my metacognition.
Metacognition.
There
you are.
Oh, I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, the hallucination of artificial intelligence actually causes the human brain to use metacognition. You're saying that artificial intelligence isn't thinking properly, or it wouldn't have come up with this response. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of it's fun. Artificial intelligence, we've tested this through research, artificial intelligence and human thinking are coming together beautifully. And a lot of people who are worried about artificial intelligence don't understand it. They really don't.
When the ChatGPT hallucinates, then we think of a way to pose the question again so that it understands us better.
That's your metacognition.
And then it does give a reasonable answer, but we don't really trust it. We still have to keep on analyzing.
I trust it. I trust it because I'm going to be curious enough. Whatever feedback I get, I'm going to question, and I'm going to say, does that make sense? And I just used it this morning, and they gave me a date on something that wasn't right. I knew that wasn't right. Mm-hmm. So I went back and I said, is this date? And they came back and said, where did you get that date? From you.
Wow.
So it's exciting stuff. And I encourage all of our listeners to really, really focus on metacognition. Enclave Academy out in Schaumburg is wide open. We give free classes once a month on metacognition, and we've been doing it for so many years, and you're more than welcome to visit. There's no charge, and it's a beautiful environment.
And you're a nonprofit as well.
Totally nonprofit.
If our viewers want to learn, if our viewers want to learn more about the Enclave Academy, where should they go?
The best thing to do is enclaveacademy.com, and if you do it today, it's not working because it's down for repair. But within the next few weeks, it'll be back up. We're doing a beautiful reboot of the website, enclaveacademy.com.
Thank you so much, John R. Dallas Jr.,
Thank you.
Chief Enlightenment Officer of Enclave Academy. This has been Community Unity Now, the D. Tycoon Show. From Bill Morton, President of the Rogers Park Chamber of Commerce, and me, Trudy Leong, Administrator of the Rogers Park Chamber of Commerce. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you again next week.